Hi children, and welcome back to our next part of our story, the Twits. Had lots of messages from you all saying how much you're enjoying all the mean tricks that the Twits are playing on each other. So let's have a little think and a recap about where we got up to in our story. Oh yes, Mr. Twit played a horrid trick on Mrs. Twit, didn't he? And she thought she was shrinking. So he did his stretching and sent her up in the air on all those balloons. But then she came crashing down. Ah, yes, I remember now. We were starting to find out about the house of the Twits and the garden, which was awful and full of thistles. And there was a tree in the garden which was dead and a cage of monkeys. And the next chapter was called Hug Tight Sticky Glue. That's right. Let's find out what's going to happen then, children. Once a week on Wednesdays, the Twits had bird pie for supper. I don't think I've ever had bird pie, have you? Mr. Twit caught the birds and Mrs. Twit cooked them. Mr. Twit was good at catching birds. On the day before Bird Pie Day, he would put the ladder up against the big dead tree and climb into the branches with a bucket of glue and a paintbrush. Oh no, children, I think I can guess where this is going. The glue he used was something called Hug Tight, and it was stickier than any other glue in the world. He would paint it along the tops of all the branches and then he'd go away. As the sun went down, birds would fly in from all around to roost for the night. That means that when they go in a tree and they stay there for the night, in the big dead tree. They didn't know, the poor things, that the branches were all smeared with horrible Hug Tight. Oh, those poor birds, children. The moment they landed on the branch, their feet stuck, and that was that. The next morning, which was Bird Pie Day, Mr. Twit would climb up the ladder and grab all those poor wretched birds that were stuck to the tree. It didn't matter what kind they were, song thrushes, blackbirds, sparrows, crows, little Jenny wrens, robins, anything. They all went into the pot for Wednesday's bird pie supper. Oh dear. Next chapter, 4 Sticky Little Boys. That's an unusual title. On one Tuesday evening, Mr. Twit had been up the ladder and smeared the tree with Hug Tight. 4 little boys crept into the garden to look at the monkeys. They didn't care about the thistles and the stinging nettles, not when there were monkeys to look at. After a while, they got tired of looking at the monkeys, so they explored further into the garden and found the ladder leaning against the big dead tree. Oh no, don't do it, boys. They decided to climb up it just for fun. There's nothing wrong with that. But the next morning, when Mr. Twit went out to collect the birds, he found 4 miserable little boys sitting in the tree, stuck as tight as could be by the seats of their pants to the branches. Oh my goodness, those poor boys. I do hope he doesn't eat them. There were no birds because the presence of the boys had scared them away. Mr. Twit was furious. "As there are no birds for my pie tonight," he shouted, "then it'll have to be boys instead." He started to climb the ladder. "Boy pie might be better than bird pie," he went on, grinning horribly. "More meat and not so many little bones." The boys were terrified. Bet they were. "He's going to boil us," cried one. "He'll stew us alive," wailed the second one. "He'll cook us with carrots," cried the third. But the fourth little boy, who had more sense than the others, whispered, "Listen, I've got an idea. We are only stuck by the seats of our pants. So quick, unbutton your pants." Oh, I think he means trousers. So pants is another word for trousers here. "And slip out of them and fall to the ground." Mr. Twit had reached the top of the ladder and was just about to make a grab for the nearest boy when they all suddenly tumbled out of the tree and ran home with their naked bottoms winking in the sun. Oh my goodness, look at those naked bottoms. Next chapter, children. The Great Upside Down Monkey Circus. Now for the monkeys. Oh good, I've been wanting to find out about these monkeys. The 4 monkeys in the cage in the garden were all one family. They were Mugglewump and his wife and their 2 small children. But what on earth were Mr. and Mrs. Twit doing with monkeys in their garden? Well, in the old days they had both worked in a circus as monkey trainers. They used to teach monkeys to do tricks and to dress up in human clothes and to smoke pipes and all the rest of that nonsense. That does sound like nonsense and not very nice for the monkeys. Today, although they were retired, that means that they no longer work, Mr. Twit still wanted to train monkeys. It was his dream that one day he would own the first great upside-down monkey circus in the whole world. That meant that the monkeys had to do everything upside down. They had to dance upside down, on their hands with their feet in the air. They had to play football upside down. They had to balance on top of one another upside down, with Mugglewump at the bottom and the smallest baby monkey at the very top. They even had to eat and drink upside down, and that is not an easy thing to do because the food and water has to go up your throat instead of going down it. In fact, it is almost impossible, but the monkeys simply had to do it, otherwise they got nothing. Oh, that awful Mr. Twit. As all this sounds pretty silly to you and me, it sounded pretty silly to the monkeys too. They absolutely hated having to do this upside down nonsense day after day after day. It made them giddy standing on their heads for hours on end. Sometimes the 2 small monkey children would faint with so much blood going to their heads. But Mr. Twit didn't care about that. He kept them practicing for 6 hours a day, and if they didn't do as they were told, Mrs. Twit would soon come running with her beastly stick. Oh, they are both beasts, I think. Okay, children, I'm going to leave it there, and the next chapter is called The Roly-Poly Bird to the Rescue. First, I wonder who the roly-poly bird is. And second, I wonder who they're going to rescue, or it's going to rescue. Oh, I do hope it's the monkeys. Fingers crossed. See you all soon. Stay safe, everyone. Bye.